What is going on, Battlefielders, Elder Scrolls players, general gaming fans? My name is Wally, and I want to let you guys know another opinion piece. This is going to be another random ramble where I talk about something a little bit more serious in the realm of Battlefield and what's currently going on. So before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know my schedule. I kind of released it on Twitter today, but in case you didn't catch it, which I understand if you didn't, my new schedule is going to be something like this. It's going to be a Elder Scrolls video, a random ramble, kind of like this, where I talk about whatever comes up during the week or during the month or something like that. It has to do with anything. Could be Battlefield, could be Elder Scrolls, could be political, could be world related, could be anything. Okay, so that's what I'm gonna do. And then the final one will be a Battlefield video. Hopefully it'll be a commentary with gameplay, but it could be something in the realm of, say, you know, like an actual commentary or a shoutcast or a podcast or an interview or something entertaining like that. Those are currently my goals for the YouTube channel, and that's what I want to bring forward for you guys. So I'm going to get into it right here, and I want to talk about one thing that I think is on a lot of people's minds. It's been on my mind. I talked to a lot of people about it, and it's the rocket rule in the current tournament system for Battlefield 4. Now, if you're not aware with the current rules system for Battlefield 4, basically for consoles, we at Level and I guess in the Xbox community in general are trying to standardize a rule set for all 5v5s across the board. So that way when you come into an event or whatever on Xbox, someone can just take that rule set and be like, boom, we're playing with this one right here. It's the standard. Everyone wants to use it. It's widely agreed upon, and boom, we can play it. Now, we wrestle with a lot of things. The biggest thing on that rule list, of course, is rockets. Now, there's a secondary too, and I'll get to that too, which is DLC weapons, but the biggest thing is rockets. Now, I'm going to argue both sides, okay? And trust me when I say this, I have the best interest in the community at heart. It may not seem that way all the time, but in reality, if I didn't view that way, I wouldn't be doing this, and I wouldn't be, you know, trying to put events together, help put events together, because I would just do my own thing. But I do care. Trust me when I say that. I'm just going to argue both sides, and I'm going to let you guys make the decision. So let's start with the flip side, allowing rockets into gameplay. Now, if you're anyone who's played Battlefield for a very long time, you understand that destructibility is new to the series. It only came around in about Bad Company. It wasn't there in the other titles. They talked about it in the beginning since 1942, but they only recently implemented it in the last few series of games. So it's not something, it's new-ish, you know, not super new, but it's new-ish, okay? Now, Battlefield comp has always relied upon an emulate. It has always tried to emulate something, and the biggest thing it's always tried to emulate is COD. There's a lot of people that want it to be like COD while at the same time not being COD, and I understand that. Not everyone wants to play Call of Duty. I personally suck at Call of Duty. I mean, I'm not too good at Battlefield anymore either, but I was never really good at Call of Duty, so I came to Battlefield. I loved Battlefield when I was a kid. I played 1942 on the PC. I had a little joystick to fly. I was a huge nerd, but I loved it, all right? Played a little bit of comp here and a few clan ladders back in the day in 1942. Didn't really do much in Battlefield 2. Came back to play competitively for game battles in BC2. Played for a lot of teams, and then finally ended out my stay playing in Battlefield 4 for Iconic. And now I just help organize tournaments and get the community together, get them to play games. That's all I do. My argument for rockets is that Battlefield is a dynamic game because of that destructibility. It's not a head glitch to head glitch game like, say, Call of Duty. Not that there's head glitches in Call of Duty, but Call of Duty is like a fast-paced, cover-to-cover-ish kind of shooter where you push people on corners, you get into positions, and the positions that you get in, the area around those positions, the cover, if you will, never changes. It never changes from one point to the next. You always know what's there. It's never unpredictable. It's always predictable. Now, my argument and the argument that a lot of people are currently delving into is the argument that that's not appealing to a lot of people who watch the game, because Battlefield, as it's related and generated to the masses, is based off this huge theory and, I guess, presentation that Levolution is the next step forward in an FPS title. It's something that Call of Duty kind of implements in some of their matches, but they don't do it to the amount that Battlefield does. If you shoot a wall with a rocket, that wall disappears. You know, if you shoot enough grenade launchers or put up enough mines in the ground, you make a huge hole that you can hide in. That stuff is cool, all right? Now, here's the unpredictability of it. it's cool in public matches, all right, and I get that. But is it cool in comp? Well, a lot of comp players are going to say, no, it's not cool at all. We hate cover-based shooters. We don't like them. Or we hate the unpredictability of this. We love our head glitches, our cover, and we like to be able to rely on solely, quote-unquote, gun skill. And I'm doing the air quotes here because gun skill in Battlefield 4 is incredibly irrelevant in my opinion. It's always been irrelevant, but that's just my opinion. I think that a smart player with good positioning is always going to beat out the player with quote-unquote gun skill. But that's here nor there. My argument for Rockets is that to appeal to the masses and appeal to the viewer at home, the one person who doesn't play comp, doesn't understand comp like you and whoever else plays comp, like myself, used to play comp, I understand what it's supposed to look like. I understand what you guys want it to look like. But at the flip side, to the layman, they don't get it. They don't understand that only medics is how competitive is played. They don't understand that no rockets, no explosives is the only way that comp is played, and they limit all that stuff because it's gay or it's unskillful, right? Which I completely agree with, okay? Grenade launchers have always been removed since the beginning of BC2. You know, grenade launchers were the gayest things ever, but rockets were in BC2. If anyone remembers BC2, and I mean playing TB or DC5, you'll know that on Arica Harbor, they pulled out like 4 engineers, and they ran like a 4-4. They ran 4 medics, 4 engineers, and they just destroyed the whole map. And I'm not saying that we bring it back to that level, but I'm saying that it is a valid concern. It's a valid opinion in my honest opinion. I think it's incredibly valid to argue that to appeal to the masses and to make the game more interesting to everyone who watches, I think that the best thing you can do is offer that unpredictability. You say, look, 1 second that cover's there, the next time you play that map, it might not be. All right, and that's the argument for that side. It makes the game more interesting. It plays into the line of what Battlefield is, a cover-based shooter where that cover is not always there, an unpredictable kind of gameplay where you don't know where you're going to be. Now, the flip side to it, and I'm going to argue this as best as I can, even though personally I don't agree with it, is that removing cover is not skillful because Battlefield relies on a point-to-point 1v1 situational awareness where you see a guy from across the map. It's your obligation to take that person out with the best of your ability without being you're obviously not going to use a Scar H or an AC-52 because those weapons have been banned, but you got to use your gun skill to take out an opponent. Now, I get that, and I like that. That's how all the BF3 was in 5v5s. All you did was basically get into positions and you kind of duked it out. You had a little duel with one person, and all the weapons that were used generally, I would say 90% of the time, were an AN-94 KH or a M16 AEK. That's all the weapons you saw. Of course, you saw different guns, but I would say 99% of the time you were playing in a 5v5, that's all that was played. Okay, there were no other weapons being used. And I get that. Those were the best weapons of the time. And honestly, why would you want to use anything else? That makes sense. There were a few nuances with the title. Of course, M320s were banned. I think LVGs were banned at a certain point once they got released. Rockets were never allowed. Or they were never like officially banned, but they were definitely frowned upon. You could use smoke grenades. You could use normal grenades, and that was pretty much the rules. You know, you couldn't use shotguns. I think they took shotguns out, and there were no DMRs. Basically, the one-shots and the DMRs were removed, kind of like how it is now. We remove shotguns and DMRs because, honestly, they're not skillful. I don't think spraying an SKS at anybody is skillful, especially with the buff they've increased. However, I don't make all the decisions on the rules. Those are just my opinions. But the flip is, Battlefield should rely on a 1v1 or a team shot gameplay mechanic where the cover never changes and it's all about your positioning with your team. It's a static-based game where nothing really changes except for your strategies on the map to best the other team. That's a compelling argument, and at times that's why I'm here talking about it now, because it is very interesting and it's something that we kind of wrestle with. Personally, I don't agree with it, but I think it is a good argument. The other argument too that I've heard is that viewers wouldn't care if they came in and watched one side or the other. Well, honestly, I'm just going to use Battlefield 3 to argue that entire point. And I'm going to say that if that was true, Battlefield 3 competitive gameplay would have been more interesting to watch back during the days of BF3. Now I'm gonna go out of my way and say right here that if you streamed Battlefield 3 on the console, I guarantee right now you didn't pull in that many viewers. Okay, I streamed a lot. I didn't pull in that many viewers. I'm not a successful streamer. I'm not that kind of guy. But even during scrims, most of the time people would come in and they would leave right away because it's just boring to watch. It's incredibly dull when you see the same people go to the same positions every single time and nothing changes. There's no unpredictability. Everything's predictable. Teams generally, when they find a good position to roll with, they just use it. Metro's a great example. Back during the days of BF3, there was a standard setup that pretty much my team, when I played for Iconic, used every single time. We changed it up a little bit, but I would say 90% of the time we used it. It got to the point where other teams just basically adapted the policy, and then it became general, I guess, mentality to just play with certain positions. Now, of course, I'm not going to say that, we adopted or we made it a standard. I'm going to say that, we melded it by watching other teams play and using our own, and then it all came together where you pretty much knew where everyone was the entire time. But in Battlefield 4, it's a little bit different, especially when you add that dynamic option. Sometimes you won't know where that person is because there's no cover there. There's no windowsill there. There's no doorway. There's no building because it's been gone by someone shot at it with a rocket. All right. Now, there is another argument within the current rocket policy, and it's something that we talked about, which is limiting it to just the RPG and one engineer per team. That way you don't see the rocket spam or anything like that, and the rocket's treated as a power weapon. Again, it's a very compelling argument. I don't know which way I stand. Personally, I'd rather, after getting into it with a few people and sitting down and talking to a lot of the teams about it, I know a lot of people are upset about rockets. They don't want it in the game. They think it's skillless, and I get that. I agree at some points. If I honestly had it my way, I would just remove the rockets, but unfortunately I don't. I don't have full control. I don't have the power to just say, look, these are the rules. I have to delegate with the people that I work with, and at the same time I have to make it interesting to the viewers at home, and if there are viewers at home and stuff like that, and I have to do my job to the fullest of the ability while bringing in a certain amount of people to watch the events so that they are deemed successful. That is my goal, essentially, and I have the opportunity to talk to a lot of the teams out there to get their takes on it, and basically, the team captains decide 90% of the rules. We only decide a few things, like, we go into time limits and stuff like that, and bans and stuff like that, but most of it is decided by the team captains. The other thing is DLC weapons, and I'm seeing this one creep up too, is the MTAR. I'm going to be honest right now. People need to go look at the MTAR and understand that it's not any different than an ACR. The only reason it's different is because it's a bullpup and allows you to strafe faster. It's got a little bit better accuracy at mid-range, but that's about it. If you ran an MTAR against an ACR, I guarantee you would probably see the same results. I think a lot of people are complaining because the MTAR is becoming more prevalent, and a lot of people don't have DLC. But we can't just ban something because a lot of people use it. Like the Scar Reach and the AC-52 are completely different. Those guns were unskillful. They removed the skill gap completely. The MTAR doesn't three-shot you. It may seem like that, but it doesn't. And it doesn't have the range of the entire map. The AC-52 and the Scar H were three-shot kills with the range of from here to the moon. Now that's in my opinion, that's an unbalanced weapon. The MTAR, in my opinion, is a gap closer. It's a gun that you have to close the gap with if you want to be effective with it. Now, there's some people out there that are obviously better with it than others, but this argument of banning DLC weapons because they're quote-unquote overpowered without any kind of other evidence besides the fact that a lot of people use it, or you get melted, or you can't compete, it's just not compelling, and I'm not trying to be a dick about it, but that's honestly the Scar H and the AC-52, those bans, I think everyone would agree they made sense. But here's the problem, like, we delve the fine line between, what should we ban, what shouldn't we ban? And it's gotten to the point where honestly, I don't even care anymore. I mean, I'm just going to be frank about it. I spend my time not dealing with it because I know that you guys in the competitive community everyone has their own opinions about everything, and that makes sense. So my job really, it will most likely come to the point where, myself, Dan, and a few other people in Ward talked about it, along with Tim, that if we run a level event and we call it a level event, we're just going to say, here are the rules. We're not even going to deal with it anymore. I don't like that idea, personally. But again, we do run a democratic system over there, and that's neither here nor there. What I'm trying to tell you is that I like the dialogue going back and forth, and I wanted to argue both sides. This is one of those, I'm probably going to have subtitles in the bottom, so a little bit longer of a video here. I want to know what you guys think on the rockets versus no rockets. I know everyone has their own opinions. Don't take what I said here harshly. I don't mean it against anybody. I'm just trying to argue both sides as best as possible. Personally, I think Battlefield has to step up in terms of its watchability before it becomes anything else. I know there's the argument, of course, this this endless paradox of arguments. But I stand on the side of making it a dynamic shooter, never being predictable. That's where I stand, okay? But the other argument is I don't play comp, so I don't know what it's like down there all the time. I used to play comp. That's different than actually playing comp currently. So that's why I have the dialogue, and I want to listen to people. That's why I sit down and talk to team captains. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think. Do you think rockets should be allowed in competitive play? Do you think we should just get rid of them entirely? Do you think we should just ban DLC weapons? Do you think we should just make it a vanilla, or a bare bones kind of shooter and go from there? I'm curious, okay? That's why we have the dialogue. I don't want to make the decisions by myself. I know Dan and Ward don't want to make the decisions to piss off the community and lose that support that we have from you guys. But I thought it would be a good talking point, and I thought it'd be a good little video to kind of take shots at people kind of indiscriminately, and take shots at myself. So I hope you guys enjoyed this random ramble number dose, and that will do it for me. I love you all very much. I'm out. Peace.